All right, welcome back, everyone.
Hey, welcome to Is It Crazy or Is It God?
Yep, that's where we are.
That's what we
That's
are.
right.
That's exactly what's going on, guys.
I guess it's kind of hard to remember your schedule.
Uh,
It's all good. It's a little dig. It's all
oh,
good.
I'm not that busy.
It's all good.
It's all good.
No, but welcome back to Is It Crazy or Is It God?
Yes.
We had a fun time reading this week.
Yeah, we did.
And my notification started going off right then. So glad that I put my phone on mute. So,
What's going on, man? How you doing? How was your week?
Oh, my week was good for the most part. Some things happened this week with my friends again, but everybody's good. Most people are. But just hanging in there and just grateful to God. Things are going well in my personal little land. I'm learning a lot. A lot of good things are happening, and I'm just more excited than ever. So that's really fun. How about you? How was your week?
My week was good. Listen, my week is always great when I wake up. Because God gave me life, and then I watch you sleep. So.
Oh, that's so weird. It's weird, guys.
So, it was a good week. I got overwhelmed a little bit at work, but that happens, right? It is what it is.
I can relate.
But sometimes we have to. I've been working on complaining less.
Yeah.
Because we'll get into it today. Some of the lessons in the Bible that relates to this day. But man, I just, if God wakes you up and from where we even were like 7 years ago, can't compare to where we are now. I just gotta stop.
Yeah.
I gotta stop complaining and that. But it's gonna be difficult. That's just one of the things that man and women always are gonna do. They do it in the Bible. They do it. It's just something that I just gotta pray and work on every day. That's it. It just realize it's one of those things where it's. I don't even know if it's ever gonna go anywhere. I'm just trying to do it less.
Yeah.
Even Job complained. Like it's just a natural human thing. It's just doing it less is when you're more grateful. When you the less you complain, the more grateful you are. That's what I'm trying to get.
So I don't. All right, I kind of agree with that, and I kind of don't, because I think it's like you said, it's gonna be hard, even though it should be easy. It's one of those things that doesn't make sense. It should be easy, especially when you're like reading and like you're seeing miracles of God happen and all that. Like you should be able to not worry. You should be able to fully trust God. You should be able to not complain, but then it just is there. Like, I was just thinking about how, like, I'm praying probably more now than I ever have before, and it does give me peace, but I still be worried about stuff. It's weird, because, like, I know better, but I'm just built like this, I guess. But, I mean, it's not to say I'm not trying. It's just, like, really hard, and I was just trying to actually think about, like, a hard line set of instructions of like how not to worry or how not to complain, because no matter how and this is probably one of those things about self-discovery too, no matter how much you say you're gonna be grateful, and it's not that I'm not grateful, but when you start to look at yourself and see like, oh, I want to change that, it's hard to move away from the self-criticism.
It is.
Right? So self-criticism kind of borders the line of complaining for me, right? Like, oh, now I got to do this. Or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's weird.
No, I do that all the time, where it's like, here goes a saying, and it's a thin line where I'm starting to realize it's a difference, and where I'll self-criticizing and self-accountability are a thin line. Holding yourself accountable versus criticizing yourself, I think, is where I know I criticize myself, but I'm saying it's holding myself accountable. But that's not holding myself accountable, because with accountability, you always leave yourself, like you say, you know what? I have to be accountable for this. And the reason that I made this mistake is because of this. And I'm trying not to do that again. And you write it down. That's what I learned from my wife. Write it down.
Write it down.
Because then if you write it down, you see it.
Yeah, and then your brain doesn't have to remember it. Okay, we're going to get into all that.
Yeah, we'll visualize that. But that goes with what we were talking about earlier about visualizing, right? So that is, I think, the thin line. Because when and I'm going to get back to this next week, but when I did my accountability book, it's you see the growth when you start doing it every day. And then you realize, like, okay, this is a pattern that I'm doing. This is what I need to stop doing, because it's written down and it's accountable. And then your accountability book, you're not criticizing yourself. You're just saying, okay.
You're looking at the information.
You're looking at the information, which is black and white. No pun intended, but that's what it is, right? It's straightforward. And it's not like, oh, damn, look at this, look at that, look at this. I was stupid. I do that all the time. I'm be honest. Oh, you're so dumb. No, you're not. You just made an oversight. And to correct this, you just have to do it this way differently.
Yeah, I did that to myself yesterday.
Yeah, you see how the difference is criticizing versus accountability?
Yeah, I mean, I did it the wrong way yesterday.
I do.
You know what I mean? So anyway, it's all what it is. Yeah. It's not something that anybody's going to be perfect at, but I think that was a really interesting observation. So this week we read Numbers.
No, remember, no. Hold on, I got this. Look.
Oh, yes, sir.
No, watch this.
Oh, okay.
When you read that, because we didn't talk about that last week, because it goes into...
Okay, got it. So we read Numbers 23 through 32, but he's going to go back to Numbers 22.
At the end of 22.
Because it kind of starts on another journey.
Yeah.
That is all related. So.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so last week we ended on Numbers 22, and remember we were talking about the bronze snake, right? And how we're supposed to look up to God, and then how it relates to Jesus. We ended where Balaam's donkey speaks. Now, the reason I wanted to save this for this week is because in 23 through 25, it talks about Balaam and how him and Balak go back and forth. So that's why I wanted to start that story. So Balaam would see visions from the Lord, and Balak called him, and Balaam was riding a donkey, and the Lord had an angel that was stopping Balaam. Balaam didn't see the angel. The donkey did. So every time the donkey would change his course, Balaam would hit the donkey. And he was like, I told you to go this way. Why do you keep going this way? Every time the donkey saw the angel, he's like, you're tripping. You don't see this.
Yeah.
Bow. He keeps hitting him until the donkey speaks to Balaam and says, I'm the Lord God, for you don't see this. Why are you hitting me?
Right. Let's talk for a second about who's Balaam and who's Balak.
Okay.
Right. So Balak was the king of Moab.
Yeah.
And he saw the people from Israel coming into his land, and he was scared. And he wanted to call Balaam, because Balaam was a famous prophet diviner who, I guess, could curse people. Like, he was, I guess, known for that. He could curse people or bless people. So Balak, the king of Moab, sent for Balaam and was like, yo, go get this dude. Tell him to come here, because I need him to curse these people so that they can, flee my land or whatever. And so that's why. So first Balaam was like, I don't think I'm your guy, because I'm just going to do what God tells me to do. And then he ended up going anyway. And that's when he's on the donkey. So as he's on the donkey, the angel comes and tries to stop the donkey. That makes, I had to put that in perspective because it's like, why would he be beating the donkey and why would the donkey be stopping? It is because that's not God's plan for the Israelites. And so Balaam is kind of like coming to do, he was sent for to do something, to throw things off course. Of course, God's, in control, but that's why the angel started or stopped the donkey. Yep. Okay, continue, please. Yes. I just want to give a little background.
Okay, yes, perfect. So then, once the donkey speaks to Balaam and say, "This is the Lord God, ahead of you is an angel," and then he tells him to,
he hits him with his staff the third time, and then the Lord opened the mouth of the donkey and said, "What have I done to you that you struck me these 3 times?
Stop hitting me. I didn't do anything to you."
And Balaam said to the donkey, "Because you made a mockery of me. If there had been a sword in my hand, I would have killed you by now."
Now, here's the thing, guys. He didn't stop to think why the donkey is talking. He's having a conversation. If an animal starts talking to me, I'm not saying anything else. But anyway, go ahead.
No, that's true. The donkey said to Balaam, "Am I not your donkey on which you have ridden all your life until this day? Have I ever been accustomed to do so to you?" Because he was saying he made a mockery of him. And he said, "No." Then the Lord opened Balaam's eyes, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way with his drawn sword in his hand. And he bowed down. He bowed his head and laid himself face down. So this is when the angel kind of presses Balaam out about why'd you strike your donkey and all this stuff. So then this is Numbers 22. You just read Numbers 22 because we started over there with the donkey story back in like 16.
Yeah.
So 22:16, Numbers 22:16. So that's what was happening there.
Yep.
And so so now we get into 23. Right? Yeah, Numbers 23. So
the highlights of 23 through 25 were 3 messages of Balaam, 4 more Balaam messages, and the men sinned with the Moabites.
I think it's Moab. I don't really know. I don't really know, guys. I'm just trying to read.
Probably. I probably need something in the dictionary that breaks it down. I probably need to read that
the illustrated,
because it probably will tell me how to pronounce.
It probably does. We should start looking at this more because
it probably tells me.
I mean, look, it's fine. I mean, we understand who the people are, and we don't have to say the names correctly amongst ourselves.
It's about the message.
That's how I feel. I mean, maybe I'm wrong about that, but.
So now the 3 messages of Balaam were, Balak was trying to get Balaam to curse the Israelites, but every time he would ask them, he would set up an altar, tell him, and he would set up an offer, and then he would bless the Israelites. Balaam would bless the Israelites instead of cursing every time them. Balak asked him, and he ended up doing it 7 times. He ended up blessing them 7 times.
It's like the only thing that could come. He was saying, like, I'm only going to say what God sends me to say.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what you want me to say.
Yep.
So that was interesting.
He just kept asking him, all right, follow me this way. Oh, you blessed him again. So he ended up blessing him, Balaam,
the
Israelites 7 times total.
Yeah.
And that's in 23 through 25. I have my own Bible here. Oh my
gosh. It's like, okay, you have it.
Yes. So that's what happened. Now, in 25, it says the men sinned with the Moabites.
I believe so.
Okay, there it is.
That's what I'm supposed to be looking up. I got to.
And I think that's when I believe some of the people from Israel, that's when they brought the Menite woman in the congregation, and they were, the Lord was really big on the Israelites staying together and the Levites, like near the tabernacle. And what happened was people began to worship false idols, and they started mingling with the Moabites. So that's why it says the men sin. So the Lord, one of the commandments, just to have to be honest, He, which this is real, that God, the Lord, does not like it when you worship false idols. And you put false idols above Him. Which I'm starting to correlate that it happens now and it's been happening throughout time. Like throughout the Bible, people put false idols in front of God, and it happens now. Probably even more so, especially with social media, with the exposure that we have. There's no privacy almost anymore. I've been saying that for years. I don't think it's any privacy, but I think that that's not even the point. The point is people worship false idols nowadays just like they were back then. It's probably even prevalent more. And,
Yeah, so I don't know if it's more prevalent because we're reading this and it's happening here, but it could have been happening more or less outside of
that's correct.
Like what we're reading. So so I'm not really sure what one would consider false idols, but I guess it's just simply spending your energy kind of looking after something else that's not God.
Yeah.
Right? Because worship is such a strong word in my opinion, but it is because I'm a believer.
Yes.
So I don't know what the definition of worshiping a false idol might be, or what it. Okay, here's a better way to put it.
You want like what it looks like?
I don't know what it looks like, so it could be happening all the time.
All the time. Yeah.
Right? I don't know what's considered to be worshiping.
Yeah.
Right? So
I
gotta take a good look at that. I guess it would be
I can
individual.
Only imagine it could be. Man, some people, like it's like studying something that's different, right? Right? Like if you're a master of your craft or you like to write, but like we were talking about what Denzel said, shout out to him, put God first. That's what like you should do, right? But I think some people don't believe in God and believe in other things.
Well, what if they do believe in God? Because don't you think the Israelites believed in God, and then they got to they got around the Moabites, and they just was like, oh, we'll do this now. Which is why I remember going back into like Exodus, and that he was like, understand how I want you to act, so that when you get over where you're going, you won't be tainted or whatever.
So here it is.
Or persuaded.
Right? And watch this. You can be a believer, but we talk about this all the time. If you're not reading the Bible and staying connected with God, you can easily be worshiping. You'll look up and you'll be worshiping a golden bull. Because that's what they did with Moses. Because you say this all the time. You say, without God, you get left to your own devices.
Yeah, I get that. I'm just trying to get more of a clear understanding of what worship looks like when you're talking about a false idol. Like, I know how I worship God. Right? I spend time reading His Word. I pray. I hold Him in high regard. So I'm like, what do people worship? Are we saying like celebrities? Are we saying like,
I don't know.
We're not talking about devil worship.
No,
right? We're talking about like what is that? Right? So that's all I'm asking.
It could be. It could be.
I don't know what it looks like, but now that you mention it, I'm just going to be thinking about that because it could be happening to me. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. So I'm just like thinking about it, like, we talked about like how much energy we put into our devices, and I'll tell you this: recently, I've been less, um, you know, into like having my phone around me all the time.
Yeah, I think that's a very easy.
Because I think I was considered that could be considered like what I'm saying when you drop your phone.
Yeah.
And it really affects you, but
yeah,
something else doesn't affect you, like missing service or I don't know.
How about this? When some people on social media worship likes.
Oh, like the affection of others. Like, I'm okay. So now I'm starting to draw.
I think like social media is addictive.
So like whatever you're spending your time and energy and focus on, that's what you're worshiping.
Yeah, like so it's a difference if, for instance, if you wake up and you meditate, you work out, you go to church, and then God rest his soul, like somebody like Stephen Curry, who constantly says, I'm sorry, when I say God rest his soul for Kobe.
Oh, right,
Kobe
right.
Was
I was like,
a believer, right? Kobe he went to church, right? But he loved basketball. And that's passion. But he took time out for God. As we'll get to it later, God doesn't ask for much. We're going to get to that later.
Okay,
which is crazy.
I got you.
And I think
that's just something that I think maybe we should all just kind of consider.
Yeah.
Right? What you might be worshiping.
What you might be worshiping, right? Like, that's a question of the week. But seriously, I don't know. That's why I think that the more that you take time to read the Bible and learn, the more that you figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. The more these questions start to surface, like, what am I doing this? You know what I mean? I would have never thought about that before. I would have just been,
This is what this is supposed to do. It's supposed to see where you're at in life, and are we really putting God first and worshiping God? So here's the question: what were the reasons for God's displeasure with Balaam?
Okay, so there were a couple actually. So the first time he was like sent for, like when Balak sent his folks to go get Balaam, I think Balaam was like, I don't think I'm your guy, I'm not gonna go. And then later on he like God came to him and he was like, they asked me to go, and God, I think, was saying, go ahead and go, but just do what I say, right? But then as soon as that happened, when he started, this is before the donkey thing, this is right before the donkey thing. As soon as he left, it said that angered God, that he left anyway. But I thought that God gave him permission to go, but I don't know, because then sometimes we just make that like in our heads, like we ask God something and then he's like, no, do this, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna do it anyway. So I wasn't sure if that was one of those things where it's like, because God didn't tell him to go. God didn't come to him and say, rise up, go to help Balak, or go to this land of Moab, or whatever. He didn't say that. He was actually telling him not to go. So that's interesting now that I think of it. It's like God told you not to do something. You come back to him and ask him anyway. Like, oh, they said I should go. And then it's like, okay, then go. But then that made him angry. It says that in, let me find out where that is. So in 22:12, God said to Balaam, do not go with them. You shall not curse the people of Israel, for they are blessed. Balaam got up in the morning and said to the leaders, go back to your land. Right? God has refused to let go of me. The Lord has refused to let go of me. They came and asked him to come with us. And then 22:15. Okay. 22:16. And then down to 22:18, he says, even if Balak would have given me his house full of silver and gold, I couldn't do anything. At the smaller grade, contrary to the command of the Lord my God. So then God came to Balaam at night and said to him, and this is 22:20, if the men have come to call you, get up and go with them. but you shall still do only what I tell you. So Balaam got up in the morning and saddled his donkey and went with the leaders of Moab. Mm-hmm. But God's anger was kindled because he was going.
Yeah. He told him not to go.
First he told him not to go. So then I wonder about that, because there have been times where I have... You know what I'm saying? Like, I know you told me not to do this, but...
Yeah, I'm doing it anyway.
Forgive me.
Yeah.
Right? He forgive you, but... So it says, the question is, what were the reasons for God's displeasure with Balaam? That was one.
Yep.
And then the donkey thing.
Yep.
That was two. What do you say?
Because I think you're right. Because at that point, the Lord asked him not to go.
Yeah.
And he listened to God, and then he blessed Israel. And here's one thing that I forgot to mention. I'm gonna mention it because in the final oracle,
because he gave like 7 or maybe
7.
8. I don't know. Let me see. He maybe gave 7.
He just kept. He
was supposed to be. Well, he wasn't supposed to be, but he went to go and curse them. Well, actually, he didn't go and curse them, but that's what they sent for him to do. Yeah. So I guess this is a thing of like, you're just making it easier for yourself to go against God. Like, if these people came to get you to go and do some dirt, and you're like, oh, they want me to go, God, and God's like, no, I don't want you to go and do that dirt, right? Then why would you even go if you don't plan on doing the dirt? It just doesn't seem like a wise thing. Like, it's like Boys in the Hood when Trey got out of the car right before they shot the dudes at the end, because it was like, you know what, I can't even be a part of this. Yeah. Or even what was that story, the Bronx Tale?
Yeah.
When he got out of the car right before they went and got a Molotov cocktail put in their car. So it's just like, sometimes you just kind of know when you're not supposed to do something, and then how often do we act on it anyway?
And then it could, like God says, I told you.
Yeah.
That's
crazy.
24:17. I see him, but for now behold him, but not near. A star shall come out of Jacob, and a scepter shall rise out of Israel, and it shall crush the forehead of Moab. And I think that's what he was talking about. David, the dynasty, because it all comes from Abram, when God told him, your descendants are gonna
be great,
and then Jesus was one of God's son, came from
that same lineage. What's interesting is, I haven't read that far. Like, I've read pieces of the Bible, but you probably read all the way through it, or it's certainly more than I have. So I don't know. I actually was like, are they talking about Jesus? But that's way down the line. So
yeah, but it's a lot that God is very meticulous, and so I think Jesus is mentioned some parts in here.
So let me ask you, what were the reasons for God's displeasure with Balaam, in your opinion?
First, leaving when he told him not to, right? The second was, I think that was it, because once he got to Balak, he started blessing him.
Yeah.
So the only, I guess the God's displeasure was
that he left in the first place. Left.
Because when I'm reading, he blesses Israel.
Yeah, which actually is good. I mean, see how God uses everything for the good. So, okay, so then we'll move on to the next part of it.
Yeah, because I'm reading, and he blesses them 7 times. So
in Numbers 26 through 27,
Moses takes a second census, and remember, guys, this is where he takes account for everybody. The five sisters receive property, and Joshua will succeed Moses.
Mm-hmm.
So when Moses takes census, this is okay. I read this, and this is the
25 numbers 25.
Yeah, it breaks down. It just breaks down when they mean census. They just getting account of everybody. So it breaks down. Yeah, like the Census Bureau. So like, I don't want to answer this. It's just I don't know what they're doing. The census is in the Bible is meant for an account. That's it. It's just counting up everybody to get a number. That's it. So it went out and talked about the tribes, and now the tribes of Israel has grown so much where it's now the lineages, it's like Joshua, and then it's his sons, and then they have tribes. Each son has tribe with thousands of people.
Yeah.
So,
and I felt like that's what they wanted to take a census to see, but I felt like I know this isn't the question, but I felt like they took a census for a couple reasons: to see how many people they could send to war, like because they was counting all of the men over 20 or something like that, and then also just to take an account because some of them were going to die before they reached the land, right? So I think they were just like, okay, how many of us left? How many of us survived this far? And how many of us are there before we go to this next part? Yeah. I felt like that was kind of like a, you know how they count you in a school trip before you get on the bus? All right. Yeah. Grab your partner.
Yep. That's it. It's just a count, right?
Yeah.
Now, the five sisters receiving property. So, this what happens, and the Lord said it's fair, right? So, if a man dies and he doesn't have a son or he shall transfer his inheritance to his daughter. Right? If a man dies, of course, it's his wife there. But if, it goes to...
Because everybody else was like, your son should get it. But if so then...
The guy has all daughters.
Yeah, the women stood up. I really enjoyed this part. Yeah. And they were like, well, why should we go without? Because our father doesn't have any sons. Like, can't we have his land? Can't we inherit his land? And God said yes.
Yep.
It's like, yeah.
Said that's
I like that.
Yeah.
I really did.
It's fair. I like it too, man. God is fair. That's just the bottom line. And Joshua succeeds Moses. So this is where, Moses can't enter the promised land because he got angry. He didn't do what God told him to do, and he got angry. And once again, guys, anger is very dangerous. It's very powerful and can cause you to do things that you don't want to do or realize to do, and it goes against God. And I'm not talking about you can get angry. That happens. But you don't want it to cloud your reasoning. And that's where it gets dangerous. People say, I was so angry, I blacked out. You don't know what you're doing. You're so angry. So Moses is so angry, he knocked a rock. The Lord didn't tell him to do that. But because of that, he can't go into the promised land. So the Lord is just telling him, like, Joshua is going to be your replacement. And Joshua, the son of Nun, were one of the guys that... So remember, this was maybe at the beginning of Numbers. They went into the land and they came back and was like, we're like grasshoppers.
Yeah, we're like grasshoppers next to them. They're bigger than us.
Yeah, we can't do it. And the Lord got mad and they got lost in the wilderness again. But Joshua of Nun and there was one other.
It was an Eleazar?
Yeah.
I don't know who it was.
It was another.
Caleb, the son of Jephunneh.
Yes. Yep, Caleb.
And
The son
Joshua,
of,
the son of Nun.
yes,
They
yep.
followed the Lord
Thank
completely.
you. Yes, they were the ones that came back and said we have to trust in the Lord. But it's a powerful
Yeah.
lesson in that. Just because you think that an obstacle is too big, just listen to the Lord. There's no obstacle too big.
Yeah, that's a toughie, right?
Yeah.
It's not as easy in practice.
Yeah.
Because you can easily get afraid, especially when something seems like you don't have any power.
Mm-hmm.
It could be like a big corporation, or it could be, um, you know, a lot of different things. I don't want to just put different things out there, but
Mm-hmm.
it could be a system. It could be, you know, it could be an addiction.
Yeah.
It could be something that you're like, I'm just so powerless over this. But I had to remind myself of that last week because I was stressing out about something crazy, and then I was like, I don't have any power over this anyway. Like,
Yep.
there's nothing that I'm doing behind the scenes, pulling any strings to make sure that things are working out. It's like
Yeah.
that.
And it's so hard though.
Yeah, so it's just like
It's
you're
really,
not
really
doing
difficult.
anything anyway. Like, just keep praying, and then
Yes.
everything's gonna be how it's gonna be. Like, you don't really have any.
You don't have no power.
Your worry isn't doing anything.
No.
Like, that's not part of the price.
No, and here's the thing.
But it's hard to remember
It's
that.
hard
It's
to
like, it's just like,
remember
that.
It's
You know that,
hard
like,
to
in the front
remember.
of your brain, but then
Yeah.
the back of your brain or whatever is just kind of like back into worrying.
But you know what jogs your worrying is that's helping us read the Bible. Like this is helping me remember that God has me, because every time I read a story, it's like, ooh, am I doing that? Ooh,
yeah,
I might be. Probably. Okay, let's start correcting that. And then it's just like I said earlier with complaining. It's just like I'm complaining less and less because I'm cognizant of it, and because I'm reading the Bible with you, it's more and more I'm starting to recognize it and change my habits.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's a difficult thing. It's not easy. It's hard to unlearn.
Yeah.
So that's who Joshua is. He's gonna succeed Moses, and then Joshua is gonna bring Israel into the promised land. And of course, Moses is like, "Cool, I got you. Let's whatever you need me to do." All right. Here's the question. Numbers 27, 8 through 11 is typical in its detail of early laws.
Mm-hmm.
What in their nature made God want laws to be so specific?
I'm going to go back to kind of a former answer, because this is the part where the daughters of Zelophehad, right, got the land. When God said, the request of the daughters is justified. You shall certainly give them possession as an inheritance among their father's brothers, right? And you shall transfer their father's inheritance to them. Now, that was 8. That was 27. That was 27:7.
Yeah.
27:8 through 11 just basically breaks out other laws. Like, if a man dies and has no son, transfer it to his daughter. If a man has no daughter, give it to his brothers. If a man has no brothers, all right. So just breaking it down like that. I feel like it had to be that way, that God had to put it out there like that, because otherwise people just make up their own rules, and they kind of make up their own rules anyway. But then God can deal with them, but they can't say they didn't know. So God's rule is the inheritance is as such. And I think he has to do that because otherwise people will just misconstrue stuff and use it to their own benefit. So it's like, the more specific the direction, the easier it is to tell what to do. And if you go against it, then you definitely meant to do that.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, because all of these things are like, and then it goes on to say, if he has none of anybody, but like, that's a mindset, right? Like, okay, if this belongs to this man, then when he passes away, it belongs to someone close to him. So it's like, that's a mindset. So you kind of go along living that way, understanding that this is parallel to other things too. I think that was why it's so specific, so you could get it.
Yeah. I mean, I think I agree with everything you said. That's what it is. Like, you got to think when you're um, suspicious. When you give detailed instructions, they're easy to follow. So I'm gonna do this, right? All right. This is so funny that that this question is here because I watch a lot of cooking shows. And think about a recipe, right? So
Mm.
the show I was watching, guy told the chefs, "I want you to write down a recipe, and I'm gonna cook it."
You said Guy Fieri.
No, no, no.
Oh, you said
Jeffrey.
God.
Oh, no, no, no. It's a chef, and the guy
I
says,
thought you said
"Not,
God. I
not,
was like,
no,
what
no,
show
no,
you?
no,
What cooking show
no,
you watching?
no, man, no, no."
Grilling for Jesus.
The chef said it. The chef said it. It was Geoff.
Oh, okay.
That
I thought you said God. I
Zadaran.
was like,
No,
what?
Geoff Zadaran. He's a chopped chef. I'm gonna say chef. The chef said, "I'm gonna cook it, but I need specific instructions."
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it's three women and one um, man, and one of the chefs. Oh, I don't forget her name. She wrote down four, maybe 5 pages, 27 steps.
Mm. Details.
Details. The chef that cooked hers, they taste exactly alike. It was just a few things that was, and that's specific to the person. But the more detailed you are, he was like, oh, they were easy to follow because it had it step by step. Whereas the other chef, right? Unfortunately, I got to call the man out because he was like, make grits. How do you make grits?
Yeah. What are the steps?
What are the steps? Do I boil the water? Because you have to understand, the chef said this, the more specific instruction you got, the easier to follow. Because you can't assume that a person knows how to make grits. Everybody makes grits differently. So if you say make grits, I'm going to make grits the way I like them. Not the way that you specifically said it, because it's not broken down like that. You're not giving me the instruction. So I go with my own devices.
Yeah.
That's just a good example of having specific instructions. When you have a detailed list, you say, pour the water. Now, here's the thing with specific instructions. They not only they keep you on track, but if you mess something up, you're like, oh, I didn't follow this step. Like, well, there's detailed instructions. You got to go step by step by step. And it's very interesting that the Lord knows this about us because he knows all. Like, you got to, with humans, you got to be specific. You got to tell them to look, you need to step with your left and the right, and you need to take 5 steps. And then at the 5th step, you need to turn to your left with your left foot. Or that's how it has to be. Because if you don't, you'll be like, all right,
I'm going to go over
here.
Oh, look at the waterfall.
Yeah, I didn't tell you to look at the waterfall. I told you to go straight, follow the instructions. But that's the thing, guys. But that's why I think, God, because he's created us. He knows exactly how we operate. So Numbers 28 to 30, it breaks down all these offerings. It has the daily offering, which is every day, Sabbath offerings, monthly offerings, Passover offerings, so many feasts. The offerings of the first of the feast weeks, the offerings of the Feast of the Trumpets, the offerings of the Day of Atonement, the offerings of the Feast of the Booths. The Feast of the Booths last 8 days, I think, that we've read. So that's what it is. And then it talks about men and women vows. This is just vows on
making a sacrifice abstaining from something. And I immediately went abstaining from sex, but it's anything.
It could be sugar.
Giving something up. Yeah.
But it's a vow that it could be fasting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a vow that you make to the Lord. That just breaks down a lot of festivals, offerings. So it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Um, so here's the question: which of these stand out to you and why? Which offerings?
Man,
and vows.
Okay. Golly, I have more than one answer. You should start, or I can start. What do you want? I'll do it.
Let me start because I'm pretty short. I don't. What stands out to me with the offerings? You talked about this about labor. Where what does that mean, right? When it says no labor,
no laborious work.
No laborious work. Could that mean working on your business where you're learning a course? Could it be doing the dishes? So it means no work, I think. So that's laborious. Probably means it could mean like don't do anything, like the Sabbath. I don't want you to do anything. One of the offerings that was very interesting was the offering of the Feast of the Booths. That's the only offering that lasted weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
It lasted.
Oh, no,
it reminded me of the 12 Days of Christmas.
Yeah, it lasted 8 days, and it's different things. So, like, on the first day, it was 13 bulls, and then it went down, and on the 8th day, it was just one bull. So that was very interesting. And with the vows, it's real because you make a vow with the Lord. I've done it. Lord, I promise not to do this. And now it's just good to read it on paper. And, it still probably holds to this day that if you make a vow and you break your word, the Lord swears an oath, he shall not break his word. So when you say, Lord, I promise, you can't break it. And I'm not going to lie. I've broken thousands of them.
Thousands?
Probably, man. Lord, I promise not to smoke. Lord, I promise not to drink. Lord, those are vows. You don't think it's a vow because
no, I didn't say that. I didn't say that.
Because
you
were like thousands.
I didn't say I didn't think those are vows. I just was like thousands.
Yes.
Sounds like a lot.
It is.
I'm listening to you.
Think about it. Think about how many times I've known that I've said, I won't do this again. I'm not going to speed again. Oh, Lord, next time I'll fix my tires. I promise. Those are vows. Mm-hmm. And I've known I've said 1,000. I'm being real. And I've broken them. But I repent and pray and thank the Lord for Jesus because he died for our sins. I think God is a little bit more compassionate. Because back then I would have probably been doing a lot of offerings. Yeah. But here's the thing. I don't know if I made a vow. If I see a cloud of the Lord and I make a vow, would you really break it? With
no.
the presence of the Lord right there.
Cloud.
Knowing that you
and
could
that's
die.
Wow, see, that's horrible because I shouldn't say that. Like, because I do know better.
Yeah, but
and I'm like, oh, I don't see the cloud, so
yeah. Shh, I don't see the cloud. I'm gonna overindulge in this wine, right, or this liquor, whatever. And then I'll promise. Like so that's why I said thousands. Like I know I've done it, but it's just interesting that it says it in the Bible where if you make a promise to the Lord, just keep it. But as humans, it's hard to do that. But, the more that we read the Bible and the more we work on it, the better we get at it.
Yeah.
I know now I'm not going to be just out there like, oh, I promise not to drink again. I'm not going to say that. I'm just going to deal with the consequences of the hangover.
Yeah, I'm just going to stop making vows,
I'm going to stop making vows.
Because...
I'm not going to stop making vows.
I mean, the thing is, to God, I know that I'm super faulty.
When I make a vow to the Lord, I think I'm just going to know that,
I'm keeping it.
I'm keeping it. So far, I've made one vow that I've kept to the Lord. So far, I know one.
What's that sound?
I don't know.
Okay, anyway.
And I haven't been drinking for a year, so.
It's not been a whole year, honey.
I know, but I'm holding it up.
All right, so then there it is.
I'm holding it up.
You done good.
I've done good so far, guys. All right, what about you, babe?
Of course you did. So, what? All right, there's not one.
All right.
There's not one offering that stands out to me, but this stands out to me about the difference of the offerings. Like you said, the laborious work, but it keeps saying like, make this offering as a sweet and soothing aroma to the Lord, right? This is so like petty or something, but and make this offering as a sweet and a soothing aroma to the Lord. And I was like, that's like cookout food. Like cookout food smells so good. It smells so good. Or like when you walking up to a restaurant and they have like a wood fire oven or something, like you smell the food. It smells so good. Yep. Like even roasted, I mean, not even just the offerings like the meat, but like roasted vegetables, like roasted mushrooms. Yeah. Oh, it just be so good. And it's like, that's a sweet and soothing aroma to me too.
It is.
Yeah. So I thought that was interesting. And I thought it was interesting that you could...
Because he says in the Bible, it says...
It's got to be in there hundreds of times.
It says like, once you make this offering, it's going to let out a sweet aroma.
Yeah. A sweet and soothing aroma to the Lord. So it's so funny.
It smells good. That's a good.
And then the other thing that I thought was interesting was kind of touching on the laborious thing again. So like some of these offerings or some of these occasions of public sacrifices that they were making, they would. They would have to like no laborious work. And I was like, what is that really like? Nowadays we work on our computer and it wouldn't be considered like muscle bending, but it could be considered like mind bending. Like you could be working on a spreadsheet or like really trying your best to do something in a short period of time and you're using so much of your brain power. That could be considered laborious. So I was like, trying to define that. But then I thought to myself, he had a lot of these sacrifices, offerings where people were gathering around each other and they were having a feast. And what happens at a feast? You get to fellowship, you get to talk and share stories and, just be around each other, which is what we love to do anyway. But I was like, that's probably why it's a law that like you can't work, because if you work then everybody else is going to think they can work and then this is just not even going to be a feast. It's just going to be a few people who showed up. But if everybody's required to do no work, then what else do you got to do today? Come on over and sacrifice it and let's put some on the grill. I mean, I know that's not what it was.
But that's like
I feel like that's what that was like such a. I don't want to be like blasphemous or anything. I mean, but that's just kind of like how I was looking at it. So just modern day. So it was
phones. Let's just enjoy.
Let's just get together and focus on sacrificing and just rejoicing in the Lord. And we're observing His. We're observing His instructions together.
That's nice.
You know what I'm saying? So I thought that was really interesting about the offerings, the rules, the festivals, right? And the vow that probably stuck out to me the most was, or the one with the wife. And so like if a woman were to make a vow to God, she was still in her father's house, like because her father was still responsible for her. If her father said, no, I don't want you to make that vow, then it would be canceled and she wouldn't have actually made the vow. She actually needed like almost like permission to make a vow. But the thing that was interesting is like if she was married, or I think it was the same way with the father too. If a woman makes a vow to God, like, oh, I'm not going to eat any, biscuits for all of May. And this one's going to hit home, guys. Let's say I said to God, God, I'm not going to make any biscuits for all of May. And that's my vow, right? And if James heard me say that and he said, no, I don't like that you're doing that, right? Because I'm not going to get any biscuits or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, no, you're not allowed to make that vow. Then my vow is canceled and I'll be forgiven for not following through because my husband said no. we're not making a vow, right? Or you're not allowed to do that. So I thought that was interesting. Again, I mean, we're seeing some, you know, I guess when the women got the inheritance given to them, I was kind of excited, like, ooh, like women are becoming, you know, more powerful over themselves. And then we get to this and I'm like, okay. But I guess it is just, you know, the times. And it's also just like, you know, something that maybe it's just I don't understand.
You know,
I'm just not built to understand that.
You know what's crazy? What? Me neither, but look,
but I don't have to understand it.
Yeah.
I don't have to lean on my own understanding.
Men can't do it. Once they do it, they can't break it.
Yeah.
Even though,
well, see, and that's a huge responsibility. Yeah. So,
but it is.
What you want to say, sexist?
Nah.
So I'm not okay. So I'm reading this stuff. I'm putting this. I didn't say it was sexist, and I know that's not, you know, what you said either. But as I'm reading this, I'm kind of putting myself in the shoes of the Israelites, of the people who are, you know, experiencing these things, and so when something like that happens, and then talking about a woman, it always sticks out to me because I'm like, wow, like this is kind of what was happening, and this is, you know,
we gotta remember it's a different time too.
It's a different time, but I also it's not like I'm taking it literally, but you know, we get into the whole thing about being submissive and stuff, and I do believe in that. So it's one of those things where I kind of have to like just understand that this is what God said. So whether I like sitting there and I'm agreeing with it or not, like I don't need to agree with it. It's in the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Like the way that they went and they killed those people in Moab.
We about to get to that, right? No, go ahead.
I was like, oh my God, they went and just murked everybody. Right? And I was like, wow, why would they do that? You know, I wouldn't have done that. But then it's like, well, if God told you, you know what I mean? And back in the day, I don't think that God's telling people to do that these days. But I was just thinking that, like, you know, it's what God says. So it's not about what you really are like, I don't agree with that, or that's not fair. Like, well, you didn't write a Bible. So that's what I'm thinking to myself when I'm reading this. It's just like, you didn't write a Bible, Faith, so you only have this one to go by, and just, you don't need to understand everything. It's like calculus. Like, if you have a big book of calculus, you don't understand how to do all the problems. That doesn't mean that those problems aren't real. Those problems aren't true. You just don't know how to do them. You just don't have the understanding for it. Same with science, or same with a lot of stuff. Aerodynamics, quantum physics, you know.
Yeah, so
it is what it is. Sorry.
Numbers 31-32, that's when Moses carries out revenge on the Midianites and the Reubenites and Gadites. So what Faith was talking about is, I mean, they got his revenge and they killed everybody. And they took all their stuff except for the virgin women. They killed everybody, and I was like, wow, it's real. Now here's the thing that I want to take away from it, and so they took a lot of stuff, right? They took I'm gonna give a number out, and so they took 337,500 sheep, and the Lord's tribute was 675. So I was like, man, this is what stood out with this, right? You know, here's another one. The cattle's 36,000. The Lord only took 72. And I was like, man, you know, that to me, that is, the Lord just asked for a little bit of time. Just a little bit. I just need a little bit.
A little bit of sacrifice.
A little bit of sacrifice. Right?
And I'm giving you all this.
They're giving you, you know, I said this earlier. I was like, he's giving you, I know people say it's not 24 hours in a day, it's 8. Okay, so we'll go morning, evening, and night. In total, that's 24 hours, right? God probably needs an hour of that every day. That's it. Like, I just need an hour, right? If you think of the month, it's probably, I don't know, thousands of minutes. He asked for an hour on Sunday, one Saturday out the month. And you read the Bible and worship me 1 hour a day. That's I don't even know how the percentage on that is. But it's not a lot. He doesn't ask for a lot. And he gives you so much. That's why the devil probably hates us. God forgives us even though we don't follow what he does. He loves us even though we repel him. He forgives us when we don't follow his instructions. And he doesn't ask for much. He does ask for, just give me a little bit of time. Give me a little bit of your resources. Listen to me. Be obedient. And, I got you. But he doesn't ask for much. Doesn't ask. It's interesting. That's what I got out of that. It's pretty cool. Well, you just put it in that perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't ask for a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not asking you to worship me 8 hours a day. I didn't ask for that, man.
Mm-hmm.
You can have that. I don't need it. I don't need that. What am I doing with 675,000 sheep?
Yeah.
I just need to worship. I just need 675 of those. And most of that you're going to eat in the feast that I give you.
Yeah.
So that's what I took away from that, which is interesting. And then the Reubenites and Gadites, they so the interesting thing what happened with them is they weren't ready to go to war. They told Moses, and Moses said, "Look, last time this happened, your forefathers were in the wilderness. So if you want to see the promised land, you have to fight for the Lord." So they said they are going to fight for the Lord, and that was them. But Moses said, if you don't fight for the Lord, then you're going to go in the wilderness and you'll be in the same position you were again. So that's what happened between them. And here's the question. Why was the revenge considered acceptable for a nation establishing itself?
Am I answering this first?
That's a very interesting question.
I mean, because my answer is not coming from the Bible. It's coming from my own understanding.
Yeah, I'm gonna be.
Because I didn't see that here. I didn't see that answer here. Why was revenge considered acceptable for a nation establishing itself? I mean, the only thing that I see that's here is that because God told you to take the land, right? So like revenge, I don't know that it's even revenge when you just following God's instruction. But I guess it's considered revenge because because they did whatever they did to seduce them into idolatry.
Yep.
So because God said so. That's why. But I was gonna say a nation establishing itself, because one thing that stood out to me when they took over the land and they took over the people, and took all of the, what did they call it? Of war, the spoils of war, the spoils, and something that started with a P.
Plunder.
The spoils and plunder of war. When they took over all that stuff, and then they brought all the women back, and they brought all the kids back, like they just killed the men, right? They killed the kings and they killed the men, and then when they came back, Moses was like, "You didn't kill the women?" And I was like, "Woo!" He was like, "Kill all the children that are male, right? And kill all the women who are not virgins." So basically just keep the virgin women. Everyone else must die. And that really was jarring because I was like,
it was jarring for
that's really extreme in my, in my small mind.
I was like, wow.
and what I thought of, and this is why I'm speaking about this, because it says for a nation establishing itself. Because if you think about like the gremlins, right? If one of them survives, then they can multiply. Mm-hmm. Sounds so horrible. I'm not calling the Midianites gremlins, but I'm just using this as my reference point because it's easy for me to like understand. If one of them survives, right, then they can multiply. So if you're establishing a nation,
just jump in water.
You just have to you have to start from scratch. So I guess the virgin women were okay because they're going to take them as wives. Yeah. And once you have a baby with somebody, I would think like, you know, you're kind of committed to them.
They can't eat after midnight.
Stop, we're talking about gremlins. This is crazy. But, you know, I would think that, you know, a nation establishing itself has to have everything as sort of like clear cut and, you know, as possible. So I was thinking that like, you know, everything that God says is, you know, as a direction is the direction to go in.
You know what I compared it to?
What's that?
The Lions reference.
Oh, yeah. Tell us about it.
So, at first I wasn't going to say it, but she said gremlins, so I got to say it. So, this is what I compared. So, you have lions, right? And when a lion has a
what do they call it? A pack?
A tribe.
Oh, okay.
Not a tribe, but a pack of lions, right?
I don't know what they are. I'm gonna find out. I'm gonna Google it.
It's I think it's a certain word for it though. It's not a pride.
Pride, yeah.
Because I love animals, right? So it's a pride of lions. And growing up, I would never realize, right? So if it's a male lion protecting all the women and all his young. Now, if another male lion beats him, the other male lion pride is now his. And that male lion kills all the babies and drives out all the other young males. Which you're like, oh my gosh. But what the male lion is doing is he's establishing his pride because he was able to take over the male. So it happens, you know, with a nation establishing itself, it's got to be anew. You know,
you know what he just did is he just gave us the Lion King plot.
Nah, man, no, it wasn't that savage.
I'm joking, but
you know what I'm saying? Scar didn't like. You know, he didn't kill
Scar was not thorough.
Nah, he didn't kill
Scar was not thorough. Yeah. He was a punk. But anyway,
it was
we're not going to
get
into
that. But like, a pride of lions, I saw one time. It was one male. He couldn't protect his pride, and it was against 3 other male lions. And they took over the pride, and they killed all the babies. And that sucks. And then
that's horrible. This is a dirty game.
With the lionesses, and they created their
new pride.
They created their new pride with their bloodline, the 3 brothers.
Look, man, God's way is God's way. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to start over, but you know, it's something that probably happens, you know, within our natural livelihood, and it's not that they have to be killed. Sometimes, you know, God just takes things over and renews, and so
I can only imagine that it probably was like you said. We're just seeing it from like God. It has to be other nations are probably doing that or worse. I can only assume.
I don't know. I did want to say one other thing before we kind of wrapped up, which was about Gad and his folks, right?
Yeah.
When they first said they didn't want to fight, right? They were like, "Oh, we can just stay here on the east side." Was it the east side?
Yeah, it was the Jordan River.
Right. So they just wanted to stay where they were because they're like, "Hey, we can just raise our cattle here and our family here," and they're like, "Yo." This was Moses. So this is in Numbers 32.
Yep.
Right? So they're like, we can just stay here. It's suitable for our livestock and our servants, and we can just, we can just take this land. And Moses was like, shall your brothers go to war while you sit here? So that can be taken in a number of ways. It's just like, Steve Harvey has this really good analogy about people putting their feet up on your wagon. Oh, that thing hit me serious. But so that's one way to look at it. When people are doing stuff that's work, and then you look around and not everybody's working, that can be very irritating. Or not everybody's working as hard.
Yep.
But the other thing that I thought about that is that God gives us this challenge in our lives, right? He gives us like the desires of our heart. He gives us our dreams, or he gives us an idea, and it can be so scary because it's like, well, what if I fail, or what if I'm wrong, or what if I'm not good at this? Kind of like what happened with Moses, right? When he first was like, I'm not a good speaker, like, you're not talking about me, certainly, But it's like, if God gives you a direction and then you decide, I'm not going to do that, like, let's let this dream die, right? He probably is still doing this with the whole 40 years in the wilderness until you die. Because it just is too similar to me to like the rat race and how many hours and how many years you have to work before you can retire. And it used to be 30 years, and now it's a little longer. So I'm thinking like that's about the same amount of time. And it's interesting to me because I'm like, what if that's really still happening? Where God is like, I'm going to give you a dream. Like maybe you're supposed to be a writer or a singer or an artist or a speaker or something else that you're not doing. But you got your good job, and it's okay to have your good job. Look, we like our good jobs. But if you're not doing anything towards what God has put in your heart, then it's possible that he's just going to let you roam around in the wilderness for 40 years and then die. Right? Because, right?
It could get, and it'll get passed on to your...
And it'll get passed on to your, well, if we're going by what we've seen happen, right? You just wander around for 40 years in the wilderness. And I'm thinking, like, it's so synonymous to me with just, like, having a job and retiring, right? Like, and there's nothing wrong with that. But...
especially if it's a job that you don't like.
That's really what I'm trying to get at, right? You don't like. If you're just surviving, like I just feel like God did not put us here to just survive and not serve and not use our gift and not make someone better and not, you know what I mean, pour into something or somebody or some project. And maybe your work that you're doing is what God sent you to do. And that's great. But I was just thinking about it in a way where a lot of us have been in situations where we're only just like living to work. Like, you wake up, you're irritated, you got to go to work. Yep. And then you come home and you're too tired to do anything else other than complain about going to work tomorrow. And then it just keeps going and keeps going. And you look forward to the weekend, and the weekend's so short, and then you're right back to it. Right? And I think some of us have been there before, if not most of us. And I wondered if that's God's present day wilderness for us.
It has to be.
Like if you're not living what he gave you as your desire, then you're not living, you're just wandering around the wilderness.
We're not talking about people who love their jobs and they're out and they're doing stuff and they're loving life. It's a lot of people that, you're right, that are in a job that they dislike, and then they look up like, man, I've been here 40 years.
40 years. And listen, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, especially if you're doing something with your other 72 hours, right? But of the week.
Right.
But
you could love your job and
you could love your job and you're doing good for the world, and that's great. I'm talking specifically about
if you love your job, then you're doing something with that 72 hours.
Yeah, you might be raising a family, you might be serving somewhere, you might be, playing the music that you love to play, giving that to the world, sharing your gift, basically. You might be heading up the bake sale or doing the PTA stuff that nobody loves to do but you. Like, who knows what it is, but if you're not using your gift, I'm not berating the job part. I'm berating the part that's like you're stuck in the wilderness because you can't think of anything else other than comfort. Right?
Yeah.
So, or what you perceive to be comfort. Because
Yep.
at the end of the day, and that's why I talk about pick your pain. It's like either pick the pain of having it now, not making a sacrifice, and then later having to understand that you were sacrificing the entire time, or pick the pain of sacrificing now, doing the thing now that doesn't feel good, and then enjoying the reward on the other side of consistency of doing that, right? So I just that was just a thought that I had that I wanted to
man.
that we talked about.
And that just goes back to uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
If you put God first, be obedient to Him, it's going to give you a passion and direction you're going. That passion and direction is not coincide with what the world is. You're going to be looked at different. And think about it. Most people that are following their gifts or passion are different. You're looking at them wishing you would be like them, and God's direction for you is different.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I wish I was like him. Well,
what about you?
What about you? Follow your passion. You like art, follow that. And now the uncomfortability is the unknown. And that's the fear.
Yeah.
Only thing you need to fear is God. God has everything else. This world is temporary, so you might as well use your gift and passion to do what you love. And even if you work a job, that's cool, but you still have 72 hours to tap into that.
And 72 hours a week.
72 hours a week. And that's what I'm learning now. So that's what we're both learning that. And that's what we could talk about it. Like doing this.
This is just one of the things.
This is just one of the things, guys. So
but I really am enjoying it. So
yeah. Hey, we're getting better and better and more transparent.
Yeah.
Like you guys are a family. See, already we're connecting.
Well, family.
Community. You're a community.
You're a wonderful community. We love that you're listening to us. Yeah. Make sure you like, share, follow us on all the platforms. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn. Wherever you are, let us know. If we're not there, we want to be there too. We're on Twitter too. Follow us on our podcast, wherever you're listening to this podcast. If you're listening to it through Apple or you're listening to it through Google Podcasts or Spotify, make sure you follow us, subscribe to the podcast. And those are just some ways that you can support us. Definitely like, subscribe, share, follow. And then we just want to always reiterate that we're just trying to encourage and engage a community of us to read the Bible together. You don't have to, read at our pace, but we just want to have these conversations with you. So, this is what we're doing. And so, like we always say, don't take my word for it. Go to the source. Read your Bible.
All right, so, yes.
Go ahead. Sorry, we're not done. I just wanted to say it.
Oh, okay. All right, I was about to go
you got to read shout-outs?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Shout outs, of course, I'm always say fourth quarter. And shout out Miss Damita Jo.
Yeah.
And shout out Yes I'm a Unicorn. So those are my 3 shout outs. And God is Dope.
Yeah, I got this from God is Dope, right?
Yeah, y'all text me the other day.
Man, man, I'm trying to control my spending, God is Dope. Man. I got a whole bunch of y'all's t-shirts that still have their shape, so I'm going to have to, I'm not making a vow, but but I'm gonna have to back off the purchases for a little while. But I got you.
Yeah,
I got you. But definitely shout out to God is Dope. Shout out to I was gonna just piggyback off of him. Fourth quarter. Those guys are amazing. They know everything sports, and it's so fun to listen to them and watch them. Shout out to my wonderful sister, Miss Damita Jo, where we've been doing lives every week. We're normally on Thursday. This past couple weeks we did Friday because we were reviewing a show. Again, just want to warn you that it's not PG-13 over there. So if you go over there, it's not for kids. It's 2 adult sisters having adult conversation about relationships, things like that, events, shows, and we're having a good time over there. But, I'm a Christian, but I'm still flawed. So know that going over there. And then, yeah, I just like to give a shout out to everybody out there who is liking our content. Like, we see you guys out there. Please continue to comment. Continue to just, let us know that you're listening. Sometimes we're like, is anybody listening? And then we'll see, like, people like and they'll share it. And that's really cool. But don't be afraid to comment. Don't be afraid to answer some of these questions that we're asking ourselves. We want to hear from you guys, too. So that's my little public service announcement for this.
All right, and now I'm going to tell you what we're going to read next week. We have Numbers 33 to Deuteronomy 4. And that's where we're at. Numbers 33 to
the end. So 33 through 36, and then we're starting Deuteronomy, and we're going 1 through 4.
There we go. So you got it.
Yeah, and James is... Listen, let's give a disclaimer now. When we read Deuteronomy, James speaks Deuteronomy in his own way. He says it his own way. So I'll do a disclaimer on the next one too, but you know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
So okay, we love y'all. Thanks for watching, and we'll see y'all next week.
Peace.